Just a question. Is this I'm sorry.
Thank you for attending today's New York City Department of Education Beyond Access Forum. This event is brought to you by the DOE Division of Specialized Instruction and Student Support and the Office of Digital Inclusion, and the New York City School Library System. A special thank you to all our partners. Be sure to visit their booths throughout the day. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to log into the Conference Hub using the link sent in your confirmation email. Once you are logged in, you can visit the partner booths to learn about their offerings and book a meeting or live chat with them. Network with today's attendees via the registrant directory and chat features. Gain access to all the conference resources in the download section and enter our passport to prizes. Throughout the Conference Hub, you will find buttons to enter into our passport to prizes. Each time you find a button and fill in a form, you are entered into the raffle. All entries are eligible for a series of prize drawings, only one prize per participant. We will announce winners via email at the end of the conference. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions for the presenters during the session, please submit them through the Zoom chat feature. You have the option to turn on closed captioning by clicking Show Subtitle within your Zoom console. Be sure to use the conference hashtag NYC Schools Inclusion in your social media posts. And for CTLE credit, I will drop in the URL in the chat box. Please join me in welcoming our speakers.
Okay, I think that means me. So I am going to just get set up here so we can start. Well, it is so exciting to be here with all of you today. And I'm excited because I get to talk about one of my favorite things, and that is sharing your story, creating a brand, and advocating for your library. I want to give you this link before we begin because I'm going to be sharing a lot of resources. And so if you want to get to any of those, then you'll have them forever. You can click on most of the slides will have either an example or a blog post too. And so you'll want to jot that down or scan it, and I'll show it at the end as well. My name is Shannon Miller, and I am a teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Iowa. And a lot of the things that I do as a librarian is always thinking about how we lead and transform learning and create change and advocate for our library, and especially our students within our library and outside of the library. And this has never been more important. When we look at what we do as librarians, I love this infographic from AASL that talks about how school librarians transform learning. And I think that it's so important to also notice on this infographic about the collaboration of how that helps not only with our kids and with our community, but how the advocacy that we do helps in the teaching and the collaboration that we do with our teachers. And we know that school librarians ensure that our students have the best chance to succeed. Also, when we look at the Future Ready Librarian Framework, collaboration and advocacy and community partnerships are all such a huge part of what we do as Future Ready librarians. And so we're going to touch base too on a lot of these today. So I want you to think about some questions as we spend some time together today. And the first one is, how do you create and lead change and advocate within your library? Think about that for a second. What have you done so far that makes you a leader and an advocate for your library? When you also think about the change that you create and leading beyond the library, It's a big question, and I love how it ties into, again, the Future Ready Librarian framework and falls really under that collaborative leadership role that we have when we lead beyond the library. Now, advocacy, as defined by the AASL Advocacy Committee, is the ongoing process of building partnerships so that others will act for and with you, turning passive support into educated action for the library program. Advocacy begins with a vision and a plan for the library program that is then matched to the agenda and priority to stakeholders. And as an advocate, you must put branding and marketing in place and share the story of your library. Today, you're going to learn about and develop creative branding and marketing as you lead and advocate from the library and tell your story. And one thing that was really helpful to me, and you'll hear this as we go, a lot of my story is that when I first started, it really helped me do a lot of journaling and reflecting and just keeping track of how I was putting marketing in place, but also that advocacy piece and how it helped. And so I've put together this form that you can click on, and you can make a copy as well, just to help you work through some of this and help you take notes not only today, but as you work through it throughout the year too. So first, we're going to think about what our brand is. And everybody has a brand, even if you think that you don't. A brand is something that is the name or a sign or a symbol, or even a combination of all these things to identify the product or service that we have. And so for us as librarians, it's our library and our library program. It also are the things that identify us through our purpose and vision and our values, and even ties into things like what colors are we using, what products are we using, the personality of our library and our library program. All of these things come into play when we think about our brand. Now, some questions that come up, and these were also taken out of that first article that I shared from AASL. And it's really great just to think about these questions when we're developing our brand. Now, first, we need to think about who are you, who needs to know, and why should they care? When we think about who are you, these are some things that really help. And this really helped me too. When I first started as a librarian, I was not a librarian, I was a teacher, and I happened to be a stay-at-home mom. And so it was my first job, and I got the library job in kind of a roundabout way and not getting some other jobs within our school. And so I was learning along the way. And that first year, I really struggled a little bit kind of finding my niche in the school. And I soon thought about, after listening to some students and talking to them, that I really had to develop a brand. I had to think about what my story was, what made it unique, think about what makes your library unique, why does your library matter, and how do you want people to feel? Now, a big thing too is sometimes when we think about like, what is our library mission and vision? A lot of times when I ask people this question, and I was in this boat, way back when I started, is do you know what your library's mission and vision is? It's something that we really need to know. Now, when we think about who needs to know, we think about who our audience is. Do you have more than one audience? Our story remains the same, but how can we communicate this story different? And one of the big thing is why should they care? We need to make sure that we get personal. We need to make sure that we tie to every person within our library and our school community. How can we help them meet their goals? How can our space help them? How can the library be part of their stories? And we don't need to just list the services or what our library offers us tangibly. We need to think about the feeling part. What can it offer us, especially this year? What can our library offer us to support when we think about that social emotional learning part of it? And that piece that really, my kids just love to come to the library because they love to see me and each other. And it's a place that they want to be, the heart of our community. Now, there are a lot of things too when we think about visualizing our brand. And in a visual world, we must stand out visually. And a lot of things that I do when we kick off the year is I think about that a lot. Like, how can I make an impact on these kids? How can I make an impact on our teachers and our parents that we have, our families? And so I use tools like one that I use a lot is Buncee. And I think of all the things, fun ways that I can connect not only to my kids, but also when it's maybe connecting with parents, if it's in a back to school night, or if it's a presentation outside our school, like something like this. Like we need to make sure that we make an impact in a really fun and meaningful way. A lot of times too, like I remember when I first started, putting things out there, I always felt like I was like tooting my own horn, but you can't think about that when it comes to really promoting what we do within our library, because everything that we share is so valuable and it makes a huge, huge difference. And our library program is something that we really want to be proud of. And so we need to get rid of that feeling and really have a place that we celebrate our brand and who we are too, and our library program. Now, the logo, that is a really good place to start. And when I think about logo and I think about the story of our brand, again, I said that when I first started, I really didn't know, that I was going to need to brand our library program and make it a place. But our place before I came, our library was a place that the kids, they didn't go, and the teachers, they didn't collaborate with the librarian. And the parents didn't even know where the library was or what the program offered, even if it was to the kids in the school or online. And so I quickly started talking to the kids and I was listening to what the kids were saying in the library. And a lot of times they would talk about how our library, I always encourage them to have a voice. And so our library became the Van Meter Library Voice. And I started a blog and we started on social media. We had a Twitter and a Facebook and an Instagram account. And our blog and our messages that we had on these channels were really from our kids. And I started this because I wanted to share what was happening in our library. And over the years, it has changed from, I look back at my blog and it was so cute with the little polka dots and the little owls. And it really changed because I worked really hard to develop this brand within our library and something that was not only helping my community, but that was helping other librarians too around the world. And I worked with an artist a few years ago, and I just love Susan Reagan and her artwork. And she knows me pretty well. And so she did some great sketches and pulled in the things that I loved, the things that tools that I used, things that represented me, like in words. And she put this together in this great banner that I then use on my blog today. And it's really great to see though, like how that came full circle of listening to kids and how they believe that I wanted them to share their voice, and it turned into something that now sticks for my blog too and the work that I do. So when we think about like how I just told my story about thinking about those words and how I brought that brand to life, I want you to think about that too. And if you have a piece of paper or sticky note or something, like write down things that you think of throughout this time together and use that marketing plan that I shared as well. Now, we also have lots of tools to visualize our brand. And this is the really fun part because we think about all the ways that we can do it. And we're really lucky now because we have lots of great digital tools and things that we can use to really help us promote our brand in our library program. And this was probably, I don't know, probably 6 years ago, I bet 7 years ago. And I saw this article in Slate about all these old, like mid-century posters of libraries. And I absolutely love these. And I started just a Pinterest board and I started collecting them. And I shared this idea with my friends at Buncee. And we just brainstormed all kinds of ways and stickers and all kinds of things that we could use within our library. And so now when you log into Buncee, there's even a special library category that you can find just tons of templates all focused around libraries. And it's great for us as librarians as we work on this branding because they've made it so easy for us. And when we're in Buncee, when you can select either a template or a background or even items, you can even find that there's lots of things within those categories too for libraries. So for example, the templates, if we click on that, again, we can find, just by searching library, lots of library. backgrounds, I absolutely love the backgrounds, and it makes it really easy to create if it's a poster or something that's an invitation. And you'll see lots of examples in a minute, but it makes it so easy to pull in, like even for a virtual library space, and then just tons of stickers. And kind of the brainstorming that we did way back, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, was looking for ways that we could even use like stickers. And I was genrifying my library at the time. And so it was so fun to be able to pull all these out. And now there are just hundreds of stickers that we can use in Buncee too, that makes it really easy when we're working on our branding. Also, makerspace, that's a huge part of us as librarians and our libraries. And there's a whole category for makerspaces as well. And so you can see on the side that if I select that makerspace, I can find backgrounds and stickers and animations and all kinds of things to put that together. I did a blog post and I included it in here on just how to use Buncee for branding and promotions and category cataloging. So I wanted to put that in there too. Another one that I smash up a lot with Buncee is PicMonkey. And the reason I really love PicMonkey is I can take any picture and I can put lots of great filters on it and then take that picture, make a collage and download it. But one thing I really love is that I can take the background out of my pictures and I can create any shape that I want to, or even put a frame on the picture. And so I use PicMonkey a lot if I am going to resize a picture or add a filter. And it's really nice because then I can just download it and upload it then into Buncee. Now, a few ideas when you're talking about like branding and really celebrating what you're doing is you always have to make sure that you tell your teachers what you can do. And we work so hard on this branding, and then, we're like, okay, now what do we do with it? Well, one thing that I do at the beginning of the year is I always make sure that we have a little celebration from what comes from the library. And so I create a huge campaign each year with a different theme around something just to show the teachers, remind them what we can do as a teacher librarian. So 2 years ago, we created this where it was a movie theater theme, and the teachers all got a ticket and some movie candy and this great little poster. And I just took the Future Ready Librarian framework and broke it apart in all of the different things that we could do as librarians to support them. And so if it was within their classroom, if it was supporting them in literacy, digital citizenship, and making, whatever it might be, it was on there. Another thing we do is a lot of fun reading campaigns throughout the year. And this is a big part of the branding from our library because we want to make it a school-wide thing that everybody sees and everybody can be a part of. So 2 years ago, we had Michael Dahl. He's an author for Capstone. And we had him come and kick off our Van Meter Reads campaign. And his book had just come out. It was actually on that slide before, and it was Family as a Superpower. So we added reading to this. And then we just got pictures of our kids reading all over the community and within their homes and within school. We even had a bulldog come, and because we're the Van Meter Bulldogs, and the kids took pictures. And we did some great branding around this theme. And this was something that we still celebrate. And it's something that's really stuck because the kids absolutely love it, that just whole family reading is our superpower. And so using things that you create, if it's in an email or a bookmark or on a website, we used it a lot in our flip grids that we had, and even using it like on our social media was really, really fun for our kids too. Now, I wanted to mention this because a lot of times when we make bookmarks, this is one of my favorite sites to use, is we use Overnight Prints. You can get, I think it's like 1,000 bookmarks for about $50. And their color and their back and front, and really, really, really nice. So I always like to mention that too. We love the bookmarks that you can create in Buncee, and it makes it really easy, not just for me to create these bookmarks, for my kids to create them too. And so what we did this year is we had kids create them, and then I sent them to Overnight Prints to print them out. Another thing I just wanted to mention, because I know a lot of you use Destiny, and when I use collections and create them, I like all of my things. Like this is kind of something that I've watched how it's made a difference, but I really make sure that I brand things like this too. And so everything has a similar image and font, and then they can all go together in these collection sets. And it does make a difference because I'm able to share them just in a more interesting way as well. I also wanted to mention these digital generators, and these are so much fun. This is just a huge symbol of all kinds of generators that you can use to create different things. If it's a marquee, or maybe you create, like, take a book cover and turn it into a Lego picture. It's just so fun to use these. And you can use these tools and then smash them up in other digital tools that you're using. If it's S'more or Buncee or Google Slides, whatever you might be using within your branding and marketing. Now we get to marketing, and this is something that, as defined as the AASL Advocacy Committee, is a planned and sustained process to assess the customer's needs and then to select materials and services to meet their needs. So we think about knowing our customers' needs, who they are, what they need, and when and where can we best deliver it. So the first thing is knowing your customers' needs and who are they. And the people that we market to are our kids and our teachers, administrators, our families and community, and now, of course, to the world. Knowing your customers' needs is what they need, and when and where can we best deliver it. This toolkit from AASL for promoting school library programs is very, very helpful. And one thing that I really love is this little guide that just kind of explains to us how often and when we should be doing the things we're doing. And I know that sometimes it's really overwhelming. Like, I feel overwhelmed every day, but I sometimes just have to take a step back and think about, like, what is most important. Our kids are in school now, so how am I serving them first? How am I making sure that the things that I'm creating around our marketing plan are holding them, like the things that they need, if it's to books or literacy or connecting them to the library and our teachers. And this is really great because it kind of gives you an outline of how you can use some of these things too and put them into place. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that too. This is also helpful. This is just a Google slide, or I'm trying to think, a Google form that we put together a few years ago. And it tells different things that are happening each month. And so you can click on the tabs at the bottom and then see what library celebrations and reading promotions are happening throughout the year. I love this because it's all crowdsourced and people add things all the time. And so you can check that out too, because it kind of helps when we're thinking about, like, when we're marketing these things. Now, the first thing is using social media tools, and we use a lot of social media within our school. We have Instagram and Twitter and Facebook for our school, but we also have it for our library. And again, it's focused around that same thing that we started years ago, the Van Meter Library Voice. So everything has the same branding and it's marketed in the same way. So we have our Instagram, which has been so much fun to just share things and follow other people. We also have our Facebook page, and when we went to remote learning in March, our Facebook and our Instagram and our Twitter became so important because I was sharing things all the time from there. If it was little ideas or even just inspiration or ways our kids could connect to things throughout the week. And so it became a really important hub, and it still continues to be that way. It's always been really popular, but I think during this time, it's a place that we can all be for our teachers too, and our families, and of course our students. And then we have also Twitter. And the great thing about Twitter is a lot of times I'll repost things like from our school Twitter, or I'll repost things, maybe have my school Twitter repost something from the library. And so just using these things in conjunction with our school one and just my personal has been really great, because it's just a good way to make sure that we're hitting all those different audiences, if they're on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, or even just, emailing them too, making sure that you email and share these things too, even if it's on a piece of paper, to hit your audiences as well. Now, there's lots of different marketing tools out there. And just like I said, we need to make sure that we use these different formats to reach all of the various audiences of our community. And a lot of times, even having kids just create things with their hands, sometimes those are the best things that you can use too for marketing. But we use a lot of digital tools to just share things, if it's within our school, if it's Seesaw, our Google Classroom, our Canvas, and our Destiny, all kinds of ways that we're sharing these resources with our kids. And so some of the things that we use, this is just a Google slide, and I have been making tons of choice boards in Google Slides and Buncee, especially since March. But this year I really wanted to make our library interactive. And so I made this in a Google slide, and then everything that is on here, I link to it. So if it is like Collections by Destiny that's circled, if they click on that, it goes right to our collections that we have. If it's on the screen, like something like Pebble Go, if they click on that, it goes to that. And then even in the now showing, it just goes to the thing that I created about our weekly events too. And so I took it and embedded it onto our Google site and also within our Destiny Discover. And so the kids can get to it really easy. And I love how in Buncee, if I want to make one really fast, like I make a lot of little virtual boards of books, I can just click on Buncee into the library category, and I can choose one and then add my things to it. Now, I also love how I can upload a picture. And this is one of my friends, Kelly, in a school close by. And she took a picture of her library, uploaded it into Buncee, and then she put links into those different pictures. And so if it is Destiny, or if it's going to the award books for Iowa, the picture in the window went to our public library. I thought this was so cool to see, but I love how others are creating this too. This is my friend Deb from Texas, and I absolutely love how she created her virtual library, because then again, just taking those bookshelves and some of the stickers that they have, she created a great virtual library. Another thing that I use a lot of is we use a lot of Destiny, but we do a lot of pop-up stories times and pop-up PDs for our teachers. And so I do a lot of marketing around these things. This is an example of a pop-up PD, and just putting a little, marketing kind of a little pop-up PD in a unique way, it does get their attention differently. Putting it together, if we're having an event, maybe it's something that we want them to RSVP to, or we want the teachers or be able to share it with the families, being able to create something that's just really fun to get their attention. And I love using Buncee for this. This is something that I've used for a long time for our invites. And this is one that we just had actually for Destiny for Teachers Library pop-up PD. And we're having one coming up here this week again. And I love how easy it is not only to share it on social or share it even with a code, but in Buncee, you can also share it through email, and you can even share it so you get an RSVP. So if I just clicked on it and set up send the RSVP, and I can put in the details, I can put in the time, I can put in if I want to be reminded or even to allow comments. And then when the recipient gets it, it's kind of like when you get any kind of evite and it pops up in this great little email, and it's so fun to get. And then at the bottom, they can choose if they're coming or going, or maybe even a comment. But the nice thing is we as librarians or teachers can keep track of who has responded. And so this is nice, because then I can even remind my teachers hey, I'm having a pop-up PD and I hope you come, or if it's something for families that I want them to come to or remember that we have, it's really easy to do that. So there's lots of different templates within Buncee and lots of different stickers that make it really easy. But one thing I love to do in my newsletters that I make is to add a video. And so I can add, this is actually a Buncee and it has a Buncee inside of it because the little virtually book board is actually a Buncee too. But then it also has that video that then I can leave a message. This is when I was just telling the kids about how to use our You've Been Virtually Book program. And this is another cool way to use it. This has a YouTube video in it. And so if I create an invite, this one actually was an event. And so before we had the event, it was just the YouTube invite and it was the YouTube live event. But you can even embed just different YouTube videos too. So when we market our library program in there's lots of different ways to do that. And you saw some of the ways that we have been doing this throughout the years. But this year, I think when we think about marketing our program, it looks a little different this year because like I am back at school face to face with my kids in Iowa, but we also have a lot of virtual learners at home as well. And so when I create things and market our library program and also the work that I do with the teachers, a lot of times I have to make sure that it's not just available if we're having a Zoom with them or a Google Meet, but also that I'm putting it together so they have access to these things. And I want to make sure that I'm advocating for the work I do, but also advocating for that access for our kids as well. And so the choice boards that I've talked a lot about already, that's been a huge part of what we have been doing. And so this is just a Padlet, just full of choice boards that we have been using since March. And some of them are in a Google, most of them actually are in Google Slides, and a lot of them also are in Buncee. And so it's great because we can use these and really, edit them easy. If it's sharing them with another teacher or even sharing them with all of you, you can use them too. And so you can check those out. But one thing we've been doing is monthly choice boards. And this is the November choice board that I just shared this week. And I have put all these together onto a new site that you can get to as well. But also thinking about how we market things throughout the year. This is one when we celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month last month, the month before, and just putting together books and even a collection. Today with Election Day, I put this together for our teachers and they're using the Pebble Go vote that's free for everyone to use. And then some of our articles and books that we have, and even sharing our weekly plans and monthly rotations teaching library. And this has been so great because all of the things that they do within the library and within the related arts and the rotations are all in these trace boards. And so when they go here, they can, get to our Halloween choice board or Breakout EDU or creating like a virtual Buncee. And so it makes it really easy for them to be able to get to these things if they're at school or at home. One cool project that we did last week, just using a choice board, was having the kids create their own Halloween Can You Find It Buncee. And I wanted to bring this up because when we talk to about like marketing ourselves and marketing the work that we do, a lot of it too is through the collaboration that we do with the teachers. And this was a great collaborative project that they worked together and then created their own little Can You Find It Buncees. This is Emma, one of our second graders, and her little Buncee that she made, her Can You Find It? And it was all focused around, those I Spy books and Can You Find It books too that Capstone does. And it was so much fun to see these, but also having the kids then turn around and share them with our younger kids. And one of the tools that we use a lot of is Immersive Reader. An Immersive Reader is embedded in Buncee, and so anyone can use it. And when you click on Immersive Reader, it then reads to the kids. And so it's great for our younger learners when our older ones do these projects, because then they can choose. Of course, our kids, most of them speak English, but they can choose any language that is listed then, and it translates, and even the picture dictionary. And I love how they can even change like the line focus. And so here you can see that it has kind of a black box around it as well. Now, one thing that I thought was really fun is last week, my friend Francesca from Bunsey, who is actually in the webinar today too, she shared this great idea with me that a teacher from New York did as well. And so if you're on, Miss Molly, I love what you did and all of the little spooky stories that your kids created too. Something that we're doing this week, and again, marketing how we work with our community, is creating Veterans Day Bunsey cards. And so this is something that we're going to kick off today. And Bunsey, they made all these amazing templates and stickers, and anyone can do this project too. Now, this summer, we did virtual camps, and these were virtual camp adventures, and we did them all around things that had to do with reading and learning and creating, and put them together in these choice boards. But a big part of it were the choice boards that I made in Bunsey that had all the capstone books tied to it. And you can find these too. There's no date on them, so you can use them as well. And one other fun thing we do, how we market, is throughout the year is just these newsletters that we put up, and we put them up in the bathroom, and then we also share them just on our social media with our families too. They're called Tech Talk on in public, but Potty PD at school. So those are really a fun way. When we think too about all the ways that we are using Zoom and having our kids use Google Classroom, one thing I thought of last year was just creating some little posters that would be helpful to the teachers. And as a teacher librarian, marketing ourselves, finding little ways that we can be helpful is one of the best things that we can do, because then they know that they can come to us for a lot of things. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about when we're marketing is the reading culture and books. And I do a lot of marketing around our e-resources. And especially now, it's so, so important because it's where our kids are getting a lot of the things that they're reading. And so this year, I took all of our ebooks that we have in Destiny and created just this cute little graphic and Destiny flicks. And this is something that just by pulling the books that we had in Destiny and creating a little template, but putting them in there and then linking all of those books made it really easy to be able to promote those throughout the year. And these are templates too that you can use, and you can get them to all the things within a link. If it's a bookmark or that template or even the posters, please feel free to use those. I also every year market our state books and the award books that we have, and even the ones through ALA after they're announced each year. And so it's a fun way. And also books around certain topics. If it's the summer that you saw with the virtual camps, right now we're getting ready for Hour of Code. And even something as simple as this, where the kids know they can click on all of these and get to our ebooks or audiobooks that we have. Another fun thing that we did this year was Book Hub, and I wanted the kids to have a way to get to the books that they needed without coming to the library that they wanted to check out. So I created these little book hubs that they then can circle the books that they want, and we shop for them and put them on this great cart and get them to the kids in their classrooms. And we're so lucky because using Book Hub and even these great Bunsey Library book menus that we created at the beginning of the year, we're not using them as much now because we've opened up our library for them to check out books. And so they're now using these little Destiny Library shopping lists that we created. And we put together these posters and some great marketing around it and made sure that they were really excited, instead of saying like, don't touch the other books or be careful not to touch, the tables. We made it really positive so they could shop for their list in just really creative ways. And so putting together some posters in Bunsey and marketing this plan and putting them on the tables made the kids really excited to be back in the library, even though it looked really different for them too. Another program that I love is our You've Been Booked program. And You've Been Booked is something that we started several years ago, and we just rotate books throughout the month and make these great posters, and then the teachers rotate them throughout the classrooms. Well, when we went virtual, we had to make it something that was all virtual. And so I created virtual You've Been Book boards just in Buncee again. And we made sure we shared these every week. And it was so much fun just to create them. And you can create them also. You can get the link to it in the Buncee Ideas Lab and create them too for your kids, using ebooks that you have, or maybe it's articles that are online, or even things like Newsella, and putting them together. And we're lucky too, because they just said that we could start doing this again. And so it's been really fun getting books into the hands of our kids again. Now, our library marketing team and jobs, when we think about who is our team and the different jobs and who's responsible, remember that you're not in this alone. All these things, this is a story of the things that I've done over the last 13 years. And this is a program that grew over the years. And I always make sure I include my kids. If it's them taking pictures or making posters or teaching them and helping them how to post things that we have, or thinking of even new campaigns like our Bulldog Blitz when we have our kids, things like that. But make sure that when you're thinking about this, to always set realistic due dates, stay with it, delegate tasks, be flexible, and remember, no matter what, always put your kids first. And so when you're thinking about your advocacy and marketing and branding, use that plan that I shared to help you create one. Use the resources that I shared today, along with this little guide that will help you with some of the things that are coming up, like Veterans Day, and we have election, and we have the holidays coming up. And I think that one of the best places too is the Ideas Lab in Buncee. There's such a great community of librarians and educators in Buncee who are sharing ideas that they're using in their libraries. And so if you want to create a virtual library, go there and look for the ideas. If you want to create a virtual bookshelf, go and look for the idea and how they did it. And just remember that, I love this poster. I have it up in our library of all the things that kids would miss if they didn't have us in their schools. And I'm super fortunate to be a librarian. I love my job. And I think that we need to always celebrate the things that we're doing. And so that marketing and branding is just so important. And just like I said earlier, share your story. Don't be afraid to share it with the world, and don't be afraid to share it too with your community, because when you do, you're leading from the library, and that's the thing that we want as being librarians. And so now you're ready to lead from the library with creative branding and marketing too. So I want to share this link with you just in case you missed it. And remember that all of the links are included in the slides. And if you have any questions, I'm going to share that in a second. Please feel free to reach out. And I have my email on here, and you can find me on social media. And I also wanted to share this because my friend Francesca from Buncee, who is on here as well, she created this because I think it's so great how Buncee gives so much support. And when I started using Buncee for our marketing and just advocacy and branding, it was so great to be able to just collaborate with them and get all of the resources. And so in this slide, when you click on it, you can get more information about Buncee too. And so all those great ideas, then you can use them in your library as well, and with your kids and teachers as you're collaborating. So please fill that out and get more information too from Francesca and her team. So it was really great to be with all of you. I can't believe I made it. I was getting a little nervous. It's 1:13. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if I have.
Here.
I know.
Shannon. Thank you. Hi, friend.
Hi, friend. I know. I was like, I'm going to make it. I know I am.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Francesca, for helping us get this together. I think this was so much fun. And I appreciate you and everything you add to our community and our profession. So thank you.
Oh,
Thanks, Melissa,
thanks.
and
Thank
everyone,
you,
and
guys.
Shannon, and everyone on the session right now.
Take
Yes.
care.